So many things come to my head. So many different tangents. I have stopped eating meat. Before this, I think you would describe what I did as paleo. Most would. I don't agree with labels. A long time ago, I figured the best thing I could do for myself is to eat what I would come across out in nature if I was living in nature, and that would be the best that was for my body and my health. And so I started doing that, like just eating things that I knew were whole foods. Now, later on, I discovered that it was something that was invented in the 50s or 60s called the paleo diet. There's what I ate today. Well, that's the remnants. You can't see the apples because I eat the whole core and everything. There's a lot of documentaries out there on eating healthy and whole and organic and the troubles with sugar and the troubles with this and why we shouldn't be eating that and why we should be eating this. And I was never a big fan of vegan. I'm still not, because to say that you're vegan is to say that some form of life have more priority over other forms of life. And I can't generalize and make those statements. I'm not going to say that this life form is more valuable than this life form. We do it all the time. I'm going to kill spiders. There are smaller forms of life that live on your produce that you eat. And those are living creatures. There are things when you walk, you step on. When you wash with soap and water, you are killing other forms of life. We live in a world where there is hierarchy in an animal kingdom, where something eats something, eats something, eats something, eats something. And the closest animals to us are monkeys. And there's lots of arguments over what chimpanzees eat and stuff. Chimpanzees actually eat their own babies. So I don't know if, like, a lot of vegans do use them as an argument. And chimpanzees eat a lot of bugs. The change for me, what made me stop eating basically cows, chickens, and pigs, is because they're cows, chickens, and pigs. They're farmed, they're raised. Some are ethically raised, so they call it ethically raised. But in the end, the animal is slaughtered and it's murdered for you to eat. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but when it's done in mass quantities, that's where something goes wrong. It's an artificial selection process. The same argument can be used for produce as well. The apples we eat today, the bananas we eat today, pretty much everything, the largest one has been chosen. That's a form of genetic modification. It's a slower GMO, but we are actually choosing the biggest, the one with the smallest seeds, until you get the produce that we have today. Things aren't the same as they all used to be. This discussion is going to be all over the place, but I didn't take notes, so you're just going to get this information as it comes in my crazy head. Speaking of which, vegans are crazy. That's something that I definitely don't associate with. When I watch a video on YouTube, for the majority, most of them don't seem all there. Crazy, eccentric. Not that I don't appreciate that. In fact, the people that I associate with would definitely be the most eccentric people. Yes, the produce we eat today is artificially selected anyway. The animals are... Some people may want to murder animals. I know that there's lots of men that get pleasure going out into the woods and catching a rabbit, shooting it, skinning it, eating it. That's probably okay. In the animal kingdom, in the monkey kingdom, the main man of the community does often kill animals and eat the meat. Sometimes he shares that meat even with his female partner, and she will indulge in that as well. I would never say that I'm not going to eat meat, but I don't have to right now, and it's easier for me not to. When I try to cook, I usually forget about it and almost burn the house down. So it's probably best that I do eat raw, which you feel better, you have more energy. I've also stopped eating leaves for the most part. I mean, not completely. I could have a salad maybe or something. Maybe it'll be the only option if I have to go out to a restaurant. then I'll have to order a salad with nothing on it. I know that that will be raw produce that I'll be able to eat. All these things keep coming to my head that I want to say, and I think that I'm going to forget it for this video. I should break it up. I should make notes. But I think this is just the general, I am now not eating meat. I used to have a grandmother clause in my diet. I have a healthy diet, but if somebody's grandmother gives you something, you eat it out of respect. You're not going to say, oh no, I can't eat that, and then explain why. I've pretty much removed myself from all of society right now and all communications with people, and I pretty much do whatever I want to do when I want to do it, because I know that life is so short. I have to be happy, and as long as I'm not doing any harm and hopefully being positive, improving the lives of other people who I do encounter, then that's okay. Another reason I did do this is because I did hear that people's inflammation goes away. So I've had a lot of joint pains in the past couple of years, mostly because I had been religiously and vigorously involved in pretty hardcore yoga. That's when all of these injuries, pulled and torn muscles, my joints, probably every single wrists, elbows, shoulders, knees, out of whack, my back, especially my back, everything in pain. Now there's a lot of toxins in meats these days. The produce I do eat is, for the most part, organic. The inflammation. This is one of the tests. I'm going to see if it's going to go away. It potentially could fix that. I don't know if I'm going to be getting enough calories. The one thing about me is I can eat a lot of food. My stomach can hold a lot. I would eat a whole chicken, and then I would eat a pound of dates. I would always say chickens aren't real animals because they're just something that we created by farming too much. Another point. I'm a white guy. I am white because my ancestry migrated north. My skin is pale, so I will absorb more light with smaller amounts of exposure to it. Everything else about me and why I am here today is because humans have learned to cook, and humans have learned to process foods. Process things that couldn't be eaten before. That is why we cook things, to break them down. But we cook roots and other vegetables, so we break them down so they're easy for us to digest. Rice. We wouldn't eat their grains, grasses. We mill flour and stuff, because if you eat grass in the wild, you will throw up. Have you watched your dogs do it? We don't digest superfoods like kale very well that they tell us to eat. It's really bad for the digestion. That's why cows have so many stomachs, because it has to go through so much processing. We're really good at eating fleshy, juicy things, bananas, mangoes, berries. In the north, people have evolved to live off of just animals. There are native people in the north that just eat seals, and that's all they eat. We have learned to store vegetables in cellars, and then I think of how romantic it is to live on a farm and use the animals. You have the cow that provides the milk and the chicken. When you really think about how ridiculous that is at eating another animal's milk, which they produce for their baby, and raping that animal of its byproducts, I hear so many arguments for both. And I agree with a lot of arguments on both sides. I don't know if I have to eat more food. I'm at a point right now where I don't care if I lose a lot of weight. We live in a toxic world. I don't know if animals are as good at filtering out the toxins, but I have more confidence that the plants do filter out the toxins that they're exposed to. And I'm going to try this. My joints are starting to feel better, so I am going to go back on a physical exercise regime that I'm used to. Basically just pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups. Calisthenics are pretty much all I've done my entire life. I bike everywhere. I walk everywhere. I don't believe in a lot of cardio. I think it's hard on the heart. I don't think we're designed to do a lot of cardio. I don't think we should. But I do believe in eating well, and that's always been something I believe in. It just goes through different stages and manifests itself in different ways. I'm trying this. It's hard for me to walk by a sushi counter. It used to be hard for me to walk by a donut counter. I'm noticing lately that it's not, because I am basically a fruitarian right now. So I get enough sugar. I get a lot of sugar. I hope that my body needs more than I'm giving it right now. I do think I have been losing some weight, so we'll see. And I'll just eat more dates and figs, because I will get way too many calories if I just eat a pound of dates. I don't know. I've never counted calories. I don't believe in counting calories. I don't think all calories are created equally. I think a natural calorie is going to be way different than a synthetic calorie. Brings me to another point. I think we are supposed to be eating meat. I think we are supposed to be cooking food because we can. We have evolved to do these things. Going back to the I am a white human argument. I am this way because of what we did over a small period of how long humans have been on this earth. There are arguments that say we became smarter because we started milling grains and making bread. My argument was that for us to sustain our lives, we had to think harder and we had to come up with ideas. But my latest conclusion is that the two coincide. They were happening at the same time. Our brains were evolving and we were deciding on what to eat. Sugar is something that I've always craved, and I've always wanted to go fruitarian, but I've always been afraid to because of how much I craved sugar. So I thought it was wrong, and I thought it was more of a yeast thing going on in me than a necessity. But I do use a lot of energy, and I always have a lot of energy, so it could just be my body saying, you need more energy. However, I'm kind of convinced now that the good sugars probably would cure candida too. I think food combining has a lot to do with, I'm touching on all of the subjects here. Food combining has more to do with digestion problems than anything. Mono diets, another thing I am doing. So I will sit down and have a meal of bananas, or a meal of berries, or a meal of mangoes. Instead of having lots of different things, sometimes I do have to have, because I don't have enough bananas for a meal, or I don't have enough apples for a meal, that I'll eat apples and bananas. And not to say that I necessarily won't have other things, like I have apple cider vinegar, which is kind of a processed food. It's a fermented apple, but it is raw. Raw is number one for me. That is the first, I can't even say that. I'm not going to put too much stigma on anything. I think that's the big mistake that most people on these diets make. But so far, I have pretty much been a fruitarian. The meal that I had was cucumbers and salt, Himalayan sea salt, and apple cider vinegar. And I actually made a salad yesterday, and it was good. I don't believe in the salt argument. Lots of vegans and diets cut out salt, and I think salt is such a natural occurring thing. I would never use refined white table salt like iodized salt or whatever they call that stuff. That's just like I would never eat white sugar, or I would never eat white bread or Wonder Bread or anything like that. Salt has so many beneficial nutrients in it, I would never stop condoning the consumption of salt. Anything refined, I totally do not support. But if it's an unrefined whole rock salt that happens in nature, that happens in the ocean, that would be on your seaweed, that would be on your fish if you're a fish eater. Fish eating. Oh, I'll do cucumbers, then I'll do fish eating. Cucumbers. The classifications of what humans call a fruit and a vegetable. That is why I can't call myself a fruitarian either, really, because I think many of them wouldn't even realize that a cucumber is a fruit. Coconuts are fruit. Pumpkins, tomatoes, eggplants. These are all fruits. Anything that grows above the ground is fleshy and grows on seeds, even that we call it a fruit. These are all human classifications. There is so much plant life that is in between these different things. There are gray shades here. These categories that we give foods and creatures, and these are human made up things. The earth is way more diverse than this. I don't think as an animal in the woods, I wouldn't go around picking leaves and eating the leaves. There's probably a reason for that. We don't digest greens very well. I would get a fruit, probably eat the skin too. I eat the skins and the cores on all of my kiwis and apples. These classifications that we give to the plants, It's very bold of us to categorize these things. But in general, there are living organic matter that form around seeds that's really juicy, and those are the things I think I'm drawn to the most. Celery, asparagus, broccoli, and cauliflower, those are like whole plants. They're like clusters of leaves and stems, and we eat the whole thing. It's such a gray shade. There's mushrooms, which is a fungus. It's kind of in between being a plant and an animal. It's a gray shaded world out there. So these human characteristics and classifications that we give, they are not something I'm going to base my diet on. Fish. There are so many toxins in the ocean, so we're told. I don't know if any of this stuff is true. This is another thing. We're told all of these things. The good thing about what I have always done is I used my intuition. That's why I started going paleo. I just thought logically, I'm an animal. I come from animals. I believe this. What would I be doing if all of this monstrous chaos that we have built wasn't around? What would I do if I was back then? So that's where I come from. And the more I think about it, would I clobber an animal and rip off its skin and eat its raw flesh? It's really not an option right now because of the parasites and my digestion. Or is it? I really do enjoy sashimi. Another reason why I decided to make this choice was because I thought about what's more mouth-watering than mangoes and berries and even celery blended in a blender. Just imagining drinking that down is mouth-watering to me. And then if I think about putting a squirrel in a blender or a fish in a blender and giving that a mix, not such a wonderful thing. Sometimes when I'm eating nuts, which I have been avoiding, if I see that I'm getting too thin, I will definitely eat more nuts, but I haven't been eating them. But I believe nuts are exactly the same as fruit. They're just seeds, basically, that are totally edible. But you have to consider the amount of shells that you could break open and the amount of nuts that you could consume. So that's something to keep in mind. I think about, are there bugs living in the middle of these cashews? I don't mind eating the bugs. Cashews are very hard to be raw, by the way. It's very hard to get the cashew out of its pod without steaming them. I think they can only come from one place. I read that somewhere. Raw cashews are kind of a myth, and they're very hard to extract, and you have to cut them very carefully. So beware of cashews. Anyway, if there are bugs in my cashews, I don't care anymore. I'll just gobble that down. Hopefully I am getting bugs, and the vitamin D is a worry for fruitarians, but I might eat roots as long as there's poo on it somewhere. Then you're safe. I always wash my vegetables, but I would never peel them, so I'm still not sure. I had some carrots left over when I started this, so I have been eating carrots occasionally. I don't really like carrots though, and especially now that I can eat as much fruit as I want. I don't miss the donut counter. I don't pass by it and salivate. When you can eat as many mangoes as you want, mangoes are delicious. Berries are delicious. But winter's coming, and I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'm going to go crazy meat craving again. A lot of big decisions I have. I'm not going to put stress on it. I have to consider that I'm just controlling this stuff because I can't control the rest of the things in my life. That's a big reason why a lot of people diet. Mostly this choice was, how do I really want to treat a living thing? Another was, can I really stop all of the pain that I have in my joints? If I can reverse that, it's not horrible, but I'm aware. I don't want to have to stop exercising or not be as mobile. People argue that they only live once. And that is my argument for eating healthy. While I'm on this planet, I want it to be as easy and feel as good as I possibly can. And I know that it only feels good before I eat the donuts. Afterwards doesn't feel so good. Sometimes your stomach can get a little upset by eating too much fruit too fast, but you have a lot more energy and you feel a lot better. I want my quality of life while I'm here to be the best it possibly can be. So that is the main reason for me eating healthy. So that's my current state of diet. Let me know what you think of that. I want to live like a pioneer. I love that way of life. I wish my house was like that. I don't like bugs. They don't look delicious. I don't really want to eat them, but I would. Crickets definitely look better to eat than... Yeah, I don't know how I feel about eating raw bugs. Sure, it's easy to go to the store and buy lots of garbage, but fruit does taste really good. Like, it's sweet and juicy and delicious. So it's easy for me to make that choice instead. So if that works for me, I'm going to do it. And sometimes I might be sweeted out from eating too much fruit. I'll go for a cucumber salad. I'm sorry if you're here for the toys and you got this. I think it's a very important thing. I think food heals all. It's always been a belief of mine. I hope that you do consider eating better. You'll look better and you will feel better. And I love you and I want you to feel wonderful and be wonderful. And I'm just going to do what I instinctually feel is right. And this is where I am right now. I don't believe in one living thing having more priority over another. I don't feel like murdering something large. I just don't know where that line is drawn. But I will kill spiders right now. I'm killing spiders every day. I love you. I'm so happy you watched this. My joints are starting to feel better now, so I'm going to go back on an exercise plan. I'm just going to exercise every second day, at least 3 days a week. I'm going to be the best Jason I can be. I hope you will do what makes you feel good without compromising the safety and the happiness of the people around you too much. I hope you'll like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Good night. It's daytime. I need to go buy some fruit. I have an option of putting some special vinegar on it. Oh my god, stop it. I gotta rip the batteries out of that thing. Stop it! Yeah, I'm gonna be okay. I don't even have a muscle anymore. Maybe it's bigger on this arm. Yeah. Why is my left arm always bigger than my right? It's just the angle, I swear.